to think about different ways that we can measure water use. So one, if we take a power plant, so the power plant, pulls in a lot of water, and then it uses that water to cool or to generate steam, and then that water goes back into the river or lake where it came from. So I would call that measure of everything that goes into the power plant, I want to call it withdrawal. That's the term the LCA people use, life cycle analysis people use. So that's kind of your gross water use. And then there's something called consumption. So this is the water that evaporates out the top of the power plant, and it doesn't go back into the watershed it came from. All right, so those are two different metrics. And we get really two different answers when we look at these metrics. So if we look at, this is data from the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization of consumption. Agriculture, not just cotton, but agriculture is a big consumer of water. That means the plants are taking the water up, evaporating it, transpiring it, and it leaves the watershed. So yes, about 70% of man's fresh water use can be tied to agriculture. But if you look at our withdrawals, our gross water use, this is just for the United States from the USGS, we would withdraw a lot more water to generate power. Now, again, some of that water goes back where it came from. But one of the things, I think these are both important metrics. And some people in the sustainability community say, oh, well, we don't care about gross water use or withdrawals because that's just repeating power use. But my point, when you think about water risk, if there's not water going down the river because of climate change or because of some other problem, you can't put it back. All right? So you can't just say water withdrawal doesn't matter. We're only going to look at consumption. I really feel it's important to look at both. And so we did that when we did a life cycle assessment of cotton from a global perspective. And this one, now we are looking at consumer use. We're looking at textile use. And what you can see is on the consumption side, agriculture dominates because, again, about half of the world's cotton. And one more point, we're going to get really minutiae here, all right? This is blue water use. This is only water that's used for irrigation. It doesn't include rainfall. So it's water that's taken out of a lake or groundwater out of a river. So most of the consumption is coming from the cotton plant. But if we look at the water consumption, because the power use is much higher in the textile production phase, that's a much higher part of the story. And this is where polyester, the comparison, let's say, to polyester comes in. We have looked at this, and this would almost mirror what we would see with polyester is it's a much lower consumer of water, all right? But it has about the same amount of water withdrawal as cotton because there's an energy intensity around this manufacture. So again, that's why I think it's really important to look at both of these parameters.
And I have a question.
Yeah.